All right, and welcome back to the wolfpackdiscs YouTube channel. Look, Richard and I are at the same location for once. So cute, so cute. Well, we're here for kind of a serious, a little bit of fun moment. We're here with Matt Rothstein, and he is trying to become a member of the PDGA Global Board Members, something, something, something. But we're going to let him talk a little bit more. We'll ask a few questions, but without further ado, friends, here's our friend Matt.
Thank you guys so much for having me. So excited to talk to you guys today about everybody's favorite topic, board governance. It's the kind of thing that's gonna light the internet on fire. So, um, you
Listen, we
know,
might get to
I,
like 100 views because of this, maybe 102. So let's not brag, okay?
it gets me fired up. So, I don't understand why other people aren't as excited about it, but that's for different strokes for different folks.
Fair, fair.
Matt, why don't you tell me and Brian and the world what position you're going for and why do you want that position? Because that sounds kind of hard.
Yeah, I'm going for one of seven seats on the PDGA's Global Board of Directors. This is the this is the board that guides the PDGA's strategic decision making, makes hiring decisions at the very top level. So selects the PDGA's executive director and really sets the direction for the organization. And of course, the PDGA is an organization that sets the direction of the sport. It's pretty mysterious. Most people don't really understand the PDGA, what it does, the role it plays. Um, Sometimes the PDGA does not even understand itself, I dare say. It's got a long and storied history. It's been through a lot of different phases with different strategic goals over the years. So as I got to know the organization and really understand its role, I was a staffer there for 5 years in various roles. And I've studied the history of the organization. As I got to know it better, I got to see what a crucial role it really plays and kind of what an inflection point we're at right now with the relationship between the PDGA and its members. And I have some very clear ideas of how I think we can improve and what I see are necessary improvements. And so that's what drove me to run for this position. It wasn't because I just want to sit at the table. I don't just want to be in the room. I've got a very clear agenda. And that's, it's fairly unique. Most candidates don't come to the board with a very clear agenda. So in a way that simplifies things for me. And I can really just focus, my discussions on the areas that I know I want to contribute and try not to step in it in other areas where I'm not as much of an expert or have very strong opinions.
Well, that seems like a pretty smart plan. At the end of your statement there, you said there's areas that you want to focus on and then areas that you want to stay out of. I think that that's pretty intelligent. What areas do you want to focus on there, Matt?
Well, I'm focused on process. The PDGA at the end of the day, it runs worlds, it runs the rating systems, it has sanctioning, it does insurance, it does, the list goes on and on. It has so many different functions. But at the end of the day, if you had to simplify it to its finest essence, I really think the PDGA is a governing organization. It's there to hold the sport of disc golf together, all of the various interests, perspectives, stakeholders. They need a ground on which to interact and to make decisions and to and to move the sport forward. So if that if the PDJ is not performing that role well, I think that's a threat to the progress of the sport. And so I've got concerns that the PDJ has drifted, so to speak, to see itself more of a business with a real growth mindset, with a business mindset, measuring its success by members and revenue and that sort of data. And while that sort of data driven outlook is understandable and important, I don't think we should lose focus of the fact that the most important service the PDJ has to offer is as a governing body, is as a an outlet for voices and opinions in the sport to be heard and to make a difference. And so if we're not performing well in that area, the rest of it is under threat.
Yeah, I definitely think losing the focus of a member first organization is something that we can't have. And if we don't continue to bring new members and new players to the game, our game isn't quite as much fun. You know what I mean? We need
That's
new
right.
bodies every once in a while. You can't just have all us graybeards walking
Well,
around.
we need word of mouth. That's what it comes down to. You know, the PDGA's marketing department is pretty good. I used to be a part of it, but you know, at the end of the day, commercials and marketing initiatives only go so far. We need people to spread the word, to say that the PDGA is an important organization, to invite their friends to join, to do that work. That's how it was always built. And if we don't have that working, we're in trouble. And you know, it's alarming to see some of the trends. You know, they're 2 consecutive years of membership loss. It's the first time in the organization's history that we've seen backtrack on membership growth. I know a lot of that can be chalked up to the pandemic hangover, the crazy boom we went through, and then a kind of a natural regression to the means. But I think that interpretation is becoming less and less true as the years pass because we still see disc golf overall continuing to grow. UDisc growth report still shows the sport is growing, but the PDJ is not. The PDJ is backtracked, and so you know we have to think about why that is. And you know I've got a theory, and that's what I'm kind of putting forward. My theory is that the PDGA has become too insular. It's not understood by the members. It's not trusted by the members, and for that reason, its reputation among even its own membership has suffered. And I think that's a large part of the reason it has not continued to grow with the sport.
I'm just trying to think like I know we had the COVID boom, you know, people were wanting to get outside and do, you know, something with people, right? And disc golf is a perfect place to just be social and we didn't have to touch each other and all that stuff.
But we could.
We could touch
We
each other,
could.
but we didn't. But why do you think though, like that there is this drop off? Is it, you know, you said there's a little bit of a lack of trust in the PDGA. Do you think it's tournament directors not doing the right job? Do you like what
Do you
other
think it's
reasons?
engagement? Do you
Yeah.
think it's just a lack of player? What do you think it is?
Yeah, I think it's a lack of engagement between the players and the PDGA. You know, the PDGA has kind of got this boogeyman reputation, and that has an impact when somebody's playing a local league and their buddy says, "Hey, I'm going to play this PDGA tournament," and they hear, "Oh, I'm going to play this boogeyman tournament," and they're less likely to go out and try it. It's as simple as that. So reputation has a big part to do with it. And you know, I think the pullback from the pandemic boom was is natural and could be anticipated. And I think you see that in the sports growth, you know, statistics overall. UDisc's data reflects that. The disc manufacturers are also telling us that their sales have leveled off, but nobody's telling us that things have actually gone in reverse, that we're losing sales, that we're losing disc golfers. That's not happening. The growth slowed, you know, even maybe slower than the pre-pandemic levels. So we were growing at a steady 15% clip. During the pandemic, it went crazy. We were growing at like a 40 or 50% clip for a couple years, and then the growth stats in other parts of the industry have come kind of back down to like, oh, it's 7 or 8%. So it's below baseline, but it's not in the red. So the fact that the PDGA is in the red, you know, for members and revenue is concerning, and that trend has picked up. We're further behind between 2025 and 2024 than we were from 2024 to 2023.
Well, that's definitely some data that everybody that's in the industry in one way or another should worry about as we push forward. And definitely, I think engagement is one of the reasons we've been successful because,
Yeah.
you know, that's who we are as we put a human face to the game, I think kind of helps, or human faces in this case. Um, you've got a pretty big package you shared on your social media, which we're definitely going to link in the bottom. For those of you that don't know, Matt, we'll make sure that you have access to this. Um, but you have something called the PGA Member Bill of Rights, which you are proposing, which is a lengthy, well-worded document. I won't deny that. Maybe it's a little bit above the average intelligence level, and I look to my left when I say that.
I don't read too good.
But if you were gonna sum it up, let's say in eighth grade level, What's the PDGA member Bill of Rights?
Yeah, it's the PDGA member Bill of Rights. I'm glad you said it was an accessible document, although it was long. It is technically the short version, so I can send you the 30-page full version if
That's
you're
not going to
interested in
work well
reading
with
it.
us, but go ahead.
Why don't you
No,
just
it okay, go ahead. It's yeah, it's basically 10 reforms focused largely on transparency and accountability, making sure that members can see how decisions are being made, that they understand those processes, and that they feel they have a say in how those decisions are being made. So it's the number one item is transparency, and it calls for open board meetings so that instead of getting board minutes a couple of weeks or a couple of months after a meeting takes place, those of us who are really interested in the topics of the day and what's going on can actually sit in and watch a live stream of the board meeting and see not only what topics are being discussed, but how the board members are representing the members and how they're carrying themselves. It's hard for me to understand how voters are going to make informed decisions on who they want sitting in that room representing them if they don't actually understand what's being said in the room or how these people are carrying themselves. So yeah, that's the number one on the list, and it's also the one that I've heard some concerns about, especially from board members themselves, because they're worried that having that openness, having the live stream is going to stifle debate. It's going to prevent them from speaking their minds. It's going to prevent them from having true discussions where they can work out disagreements. And I'm sure there is some truth to that. It will change how people speak to each other. But at the same time, I think that's, it's part of it might be uncomfortable, but that's part of the burden of public service, is that we have to remember that the board members are there representing the members that are there because they asked to be, and they should be willing to say they should be willing to make their case in front of the membership. Whatever they're willing to say in the board, they should be willing to say in public. And I have a hard time imagining a scenario where that's not true. And if something they were going to say in the boardroom is something they don't want the public to know, they should probably rethink whether or not it was the right thing to say in the first place.
Yeah.
That said, that's just one of 10 reforms. The other things, I'm proposing an independent oversight committee that can hold the board accountable to the bylaws and conflict of interest policies, making sure they're following the rules, because as it stands
Conflicts
right
of
now,
interest? There would never be any of those in disc golf. What?
I don't
What?
know about that, man.
I mean, I can't speak directly on any particular issues,
Oh
but
no, we
I
wouldn't
know
ask you to.
No, definitely.
No.
since I follow Wolfpack discs closely, I know that conflict of interest is perception out there in the podcast world. So yeah, it's a real issue, and right now the board is expected to more or less call its own balls and strikes and to police itself. And going back to eighth grade civics, like you self-policing is pretty antithetical to most theories of government that we learn in social studies. So I think that's a pretty straightforward one. We
Checks
need
and balances.
checks and balances. See, Dick,
They'll
even
balance
Dick
it.
gets
Come
it, so
on.
that's
Yeah.
impressive.
Hey PDJ, you need two guys to come in and help with the balances. We'll do it. We'll do it for free too.
I
We
might
believe
even
in
check a little. I don't know.
we believe in the future of the sport, and I think that Matt gave some good examples there. I'll go even a little bit wider. You can turn on C-SPAN and see what they're talking about in the government right now.
I was thinking that
on the
exact
floor.
same thing. In Congress, they're talking in an open forum.
That's right.
You're on TV.
Open forum.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
locally
PTA every city, right? The school boards are open meetings. The city councils are open meetings. This is so we all a lot of times we hear this argument from status quo proponents at the PDJ. Let's call them that. They say, look, the PDJ is bringing in close to $10 million a year. We're not a small club anymore. This is a serious business. We need serious minded business people, and we can't be doing this out in the open for just any old Joe or Jane member to weigh in on. sort of the we're too big for transparency argument. And the point you guys just brought up is the perfect counter to that, which is the biggest institutions, the government of the United States, and the ones that are really critical for like our local school boards. They're doing this. Even the school board's budget is $100 million, and so this idea that we've got too much money to operate out in the open doesn't land with me.
Yeah, transparency is a pretty important thing for us. We're here in Detroit, so you might hear a bell and a whistle going by. I think fire truck's about to go by, so sorry about that, those of you that are listening to this and not viewing it. But yeah, we look at everything in Michigan. We try to become more transparent in the last 10 years within the MDGO, the Michigan Disc Golf Organization. We stream our meetings now as well. We just think it's something that you have the technology, you have the access to. Why would we not want to offer that to our members? And more importantly, like we got to be honest, that could also draw in members too. There's a section of the world that really does love the rules, really does love the checks and balances, and they maybe are afraid to join the PDGA because of lack of transparency. I don't know how many people that is, but if it gets us one or two more extra members, we shouldn't really be complaining about that. That's my personal opinion, at least.
100%. Yeah. I mean, if the information's not out there, people speculate. And I think that's been a big problem. Part of the problem with the PDGA's reputation is with a lack of information, you've got podcasts. I don't want to name any particular podcasts out there, but let's say they're foundational to the sports dialogue, and they make a business out of speculation. And the fact is, that's kind of what they have to do because the information is just not available. So, at the risk of putting a damper on their business model, let's put the information out there so that the community can kind of answer its own questions. We've got smart people that are engaged. So even if 10%, it's about how many PDGA members go out and vote. Even if 10% are actively engaged and following the meetings, and that's a lot of community self-policing and self-awareness that we've got now. We've got a whole base of people that really understand the issues, how they're being discussed, and they can help kind of dispel rumors and false information because they've got the real info. And we don't have that right now.
Yeah, it sounds like at least if you are an active PDGA member, we would encourage you to read his member Bill of Rights. Like, just take a little look through, even if it's the Cliff Notes version, get a little bit of info in your brain because as a paying member of this nonprofit organization, you do have certain rights, and you should make sure that you know what's going on and what your money's going to, and who's making those decisions. That's just
I appreciate that.
my
And
two
listen,
cents.
I understand people don't love to read, and I'm a media savvy guy. I'm a media guy, and so don't fret. I'll be putting these proposals in a non-written form at some point. They'll go in videos, and I'll be talking on podcasts. So don't feel like you need to read the white paper to kind of get what's going on. But you said something that queued me up here, which is that you referred to dues paying members, people paying their dues to the PDGA, and how they should get involved and understand how their money is being spent. Totally true, and I agree 100%. I don't think that PDGA members are the only ones who really should be interested in this because the PDGA is claiming to be the governing body of the sport of disc golf, and that's a big claim. And at the end of the day, we have to ask, okay, well, who says you're the governing body? According to who? Where do you get that authority? And that authority comes from the consent of the governed. I'm sorry to go back to civics class here, but people need to buy into that. And if they're going to govern the entire sport, that includes members and non-members. I think that's how it should be. I think the PDGA should be the governing body of the entire sport of disc golf. And I think they do need to keep in mind people who just want to go out and play in the park and not keep score or not compete or whatever it is and just have fun. They may never become a PDGA member, but that shouldn't stop the PDGA from considering their interests, especially if they claim to represent and govern the whole sport.
Yeah, well, we're pro more people in our sport, and I think we've established in our long career that we're pro PDGA too. We just want it to keep getting better and better. We like continuous improvement, and there's nothing wrong with looking in the mirror and deciding what we need to improve. And I think that that's where we're headed in the modern disc golf world is more people looking at us and more companies and sponsors looking at our bigger events, and I think the more transparency we have from the ground up, the more success we will have. At least that's our our view.
Yes.
Yeah. You have something?
That's well said.
Earlier, something you said was the PDGA is losing money. Do you have like access to their budget already as a prospective board member?
Yes,
I'm
but believe
wondering,
me,
like, how much in the red are they? Like,
after extensive discussions with their legal department over the years, I'm quite careful not to discuss anything that I have learned from my internal access to the PDGA. So no, that's completely public information. That,
I was gonna say
they
it's a
publish their
nonprofit. It's
Yeah, it's public.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is it's published in their financial reportings, and then also in their board minutes. Every month they have a board meeting. Those minutes are published, 3 to 12 weeks later, whenever they decide to, but they typically involve the membership to date numbers, the revenue to date numbers, year over year comparisons, and things like that.
Well, again, some people like the seriousness and some people don't, but we try to bring a little levity to every situation. So let's throw out your candidacy real quick. Let's remember that you've been playing golf for 20 plus years. You've been a PDGA member for 10-ish years, right? 10 plus years?
That's right. My wife signed me up because she saw me playing so much disc golf. She was like, dude, you need to join this organization. They run all the tournaments. And I'm like, fine, if I have to. So yeah, she totally signed me up. And
daughter's number is almost as low as yours.
Yeah. Yeah, my daughter's my daughter's only 9. She's got you. She's a 5-digiter too. So, but let's pretend you are the czar of disc golf. Okay. What's the number one rule you are either changing or enforcing?
I think I would just decree it for all time. It's off the table from here on out. The 10-meter jump putt rule is sacrosanct and will never be touched, changed, or altered.
Oh,
Okay.
Wow.
My entire game is built around it. And if you take away my 10-meter jump putt, things are not going to go well. So that's number one rule for me. I know it's tough to call. I know on slow motion video, it looks like there's a lot of foot faults. Those are the breaks. Baseball umps got to call balls and strikes, and they make bad calls too. But them's just the rules, and don't touch it.
they don't have to. They could use robot. We're not gonna talk about that.
Yeah, don't get Dick started on baseball. That's a different podcast, and I don't want to be involved in it, to be completely honest. Well, we appreciate you having a little bit of fun with us there. Matt, we like we said on our other podcast, we definitely support more transparency, so we're definitely throwing our support behind you. But that not being said, if you are another candidate and you happen to be one of the 13 people that are going to watch this or the PDGA and you want to come hang out with us on the screen, you're always welcome to. And we believe in open transparency and communication. And I think that's how you get to the best compromise in every situation. Look at us use our vocab words there.
Talk it out, baby.
Talk it out.
Yeah, for sure. I hope, I'm really hoping that people get on board with these proposals, that the proposals are more important to me than the candidacy. If the other candidates that are running for seats like what they hear in my proposals and support it, and we split votes because they're like, it doesn't matter, I can vote for this person or this person and get this transparency and these reforms. That's great. That's a win for me. So the other candidates that are running, Conrad and Laura are the incumbents. They currently hold seats. I like them both. I respect them both. I agree. I think this is one of the upsides and downsides to board elections at the PDGA, is that a lot of the candidates are in agreement with each other. We all want to grow the sport. We all want to see more international growth. We all want to see more growth in the underrepresented groups. We all want to see better education programs. We all want to see more playing opportunities. The emphasis can be different from here or, from one candidate to another, but typically, I think most people align on the major goals and strategies. I'm trying to differentiate myself and even pull people along on this reform issue, because I don't think this is something that's typically proposed or really considered during board elections. And so I'm hoping to kind of force the issue and get the other candidates to discuss it and engage with it, and hopefully just kind of move that movement forward, because I really do think it's important. Just one other thing, before I sign off, I also kind of want to mention that people have forgotten this, but the PDGA, was founded on a lot of these principles, on this idea of openness, on representing, giving a structure for the members to be represented. This was part of the original PDGA constitution, and I'm surprised. I didn't know anything about the PDGA constitution until I recently started looking into it. I think a lot of this history and tradition has been lost, right? Dick's shrugging his shoulders. He's probably never heard of it, but everyone knows the story. 1984, Ted Smethers and Ed Hedrick. So Ed had been holding on to tight control of the PDGA since it was founded in 1976. So next year is the 50th anniversary. Happy 50th PDGA.
Yeah.
But Ed founded the PDGA as basically a marketing arm of his manufacturing business, the DGA, which is still making great stuff and still in the in the manufacturing business. But the PDGA was basically Ed's organization. He ran it as a one man show, the benevolent dictator. It was necessary. At that time, he toured the country. He set up the first courses. He got the first members signed up. He was signing up about 300 members a year for the first 5 years. Just to put things in perspective, very steady number.
Yeah.
Putting in about 25 to 30 courses a year, signing up 300 members. And that's how things went until finally he hit a kind of a certain threshold, and the players, realized that the sport was outgrowing Ed. He was trying to keep control. He only wanted players to use his discs, Whammo and DGA manufactured discs. Innovo was coming on the market, so eventually there was kind of a player revolt, and they forced Ed to turn over the PDGA, and it all came to a head in 1984 at the players meeting at the World Championships. Ed handed over a symbolic bottle of Genesee cream beer in Rochester to Ted Smethers.
Jenny Cream, that's my hometown, baby.
Oh. This was in Rochester. This was on the well, it wasn't the 10-year anniversary at that point. Sorry, it was the 10-year anniversary. It was 1984, the 10-year anniversary of the American Flying Disc Open, where Stork won the car. That 74 AFDO was also sponsored by Genesee Cream Ale, and so that was a tradition out there, and so it meant a lot in '84 when Ed handed Ted the bottle of Genesee, and that symbolized the handover of the PDGA. And that's where kind of a lot of the histories end. Like that's what's on the PDGA's history page, and that's kind of where.
I think Matt froze.
Might just be standing really still.
He might have froze. It looks like we're still recording on our end.
Zeke's really good at staying still.
Man, this is pretty unfortunate for a guy that was on a good clip.
Giving me history lessons I never heard of.
I know. Hey, if you're from the Rochester area and you still run the wonderful event that is one of the longest running events, make sure you reach out to Jenny Cream Ale. Clip this section, maybe right before Matt freezes, and see if the Genesee Brewing Company wants to help out there. We're going to take this down and maybe give him an opportunity to come back in. Oh, see, he left on his own. I bet you he's going to pop back in any second and rejoin us. We've got about 5 minutes anyways, so I'm nervous too. But while we're down here, as a reminder, feel free to reach out to your PDGA candidates, reach out to your local club members, reach out and find out more about this great sport and really become more and more involved if you can. The more you can do as a volunteer, the more you can do as an engaged member, the more you can do as a disc golfer, the more our sport's going to go forward. And anyone can really do that. It doesn't take, look at us. We're literally recording on Zoom, and then we put it on the internet, and it's not that hard. If we can do it, you can do it. Help the sport grow.
We're going to vote for Matt.
Yeah,
sure.
Pretty sure.
Sold me.
That being said, any other candidates, like we said, you want to come and hang out, feel free. You're welcome. PDGA, you're always welcome. You know that. And
we're going to grill you, though.
Yeah, maybe we'll have them pour point. They can come over for
slow roast it.
I thought we were gonna invite them over for food. You were actually talking about grilling them. I don't think you're mean enough to grill anyone. Well, we've stalled for close to a minute trying to get Matt back in. It doesn't look like he's rejoining. So Thanks. As far as Matt goes, we're gonna sign off for Matt. Richard, anything for the crowd?
No,
No, cool. Great talk. We're gonna see you out there, friends.
hold on.
Oh, Matt says his Wi-Fi is dead. We just got the message.
no.
It's gonna be okay.
I think it was a good interview, and we only had a few minutes left, and he got his points across. So.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. Remember to like, subscribe. Until next time, keep it in the fairway.